I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 141-150. Thank you for everyone who pressed like and follow. It's an encouragement for each other. I apologize for the translation. You can donate at Castlecorn Banco 2535200310. Then let's start. Chapter 141 Martial Arts. Chu Yao followed Xiao into a separate room in the hotel, and Eclipse also followed. This made Chu Yao feel that the relationship between these two people was not ordinary, and judging from the name Xiao said, they might be relatives. Let's gossip. I don't know how many employees Miss Chu's security company has. 2,000 people. Chu Yao said the exact number. The current total number of employees of Maui Company is as high as 5,000, many of whom were recruited from the society during the expansion period and worked in various connections of the pharmaceutical factory. However, the security company usually has 2,000 people, and more than half of these 2,000 people are the original members of the Maui gang from Tianai City. That many? Shao Kahn's face showed joy, and now the urgent need has been solved. Then, the two began a heated discussion on the situation of the concert, security distribution, employment compensation, and many other matters, and soon signed the agreement. Both parties were very satisfied with this cooperation. Fortunately, I met Mr. Chu at this Chamber of Commerce, otherwise, the security issues of this concert would have given me a headache for a while. I am honored to cooperate with Boss Group. If you have a similar situation in the future, you can contact me. Mao Company welcomes you at any time. Alright. We will have a long time in Japan. We will have a long time in Japan. Chu Yao and Xiao Kun shook hands again. I will send Manager Yang's fusion letter to you now, and you can contact her to discuss more specific content. She will take full responsibility for the security company. The two chatted for a while, then Xiao Kun got up to leave, leaving only Chu Yao and Eclipse in the room. Originally, Chu Yao wanted to leave, but seeing Eclipse's hesitant look, she couldn't help but wonder, does she have any business matters to discuss? Princess He, is there anything you want to tell me? Mother, it's time to be born. Since you and Brother Xiao are talking so well, we'll get to know each other. Just call me by my name. You can call me Xiao Mei. That's what friends call me. Kayusi moved the chair under her body to let Chu Yao get closer. I don't know how long Sister Chu has been practicing martial arts. How long have you been in martial arts? I don't have any martial arts skills. Chu Yao decided to speak directly. It seemed like she had heard about martial arts from someone else long ago, but she never paid attention. After all, she was a monk, and human martial arts were something that could be dispensed to her, and she often used the name of a martial art to cover up her spells. No way. Then, Sister Chu has not been ranked in a martial arts school yet? What are martial arts and rankings? She could only find an excuse to say that her kung fu was passed down from her family. In the next few minutes, Chu Yao learned from Yishaoshi what had happened to the martial arts of heaven and man. The martial arts of heaven and man had a long history, spanning thousands of years from ancient times to the present. Schools were flourishing, and even hermit families had passed them down from generation to generation. The advancement of science and technology had now brought martial arts to an end. Heaven and man supported pioneering, so naturally, there was a style of martial arts support. In the present era, with the support of the Grand Council and many interstellar companies, traditional martial arts had revived in a new form in modern society. With official support, martial arts had developed systematically, such as integrating martial arts curricula into school education, holding full-scale martial arts conferences on various planets every year, and using martial arts rankings as a required certification for certain professions. Martial arts and martial arts levels had also come out. There were 10 levels in total. The lowest level is the 10th level, which is the strongest level. An 8th level warrior can be called a master, just like dragons and phoenixes among humans, and when they reach the 10th level, they can be called a master. So, after talking for a long time, do you want to recommend a formally qualified martial arts school on Yuanying Star? Yes, I have been in Yuanying Star for nearly 2 years, and the cities on the 3 continents, both big and small, have all gone out. I have tried them all, but I have not seen any large martial arts arenas, and they are all fierce. Hishashi's big eyes flashed, and his excitement was brimming. It means that the reason is that this should be the matter of Valley Company, and this has nothing to do with our Qingshu Group's business. But if Valley Company doesn't do it, someone must do it. Chu Yao understands a little. With the opening of the Star Path, many things that should be popular in the heavenly and human world will flow into the spiritual origin star sooner or later, and martial arts is one of them. The new trading mode will inevitably lead to various changes and innovations in the market. This is a vast blue ocean with unlimited business opportunities. Martial arts is just one aspect of this blue ocean. You guys see, as the first person to eat crabs, as long as he did it properly, he would open up a new market for Qingshu Company on Yuanying Star. Chu Yao couldn't help but feel that she had caught up with the good times, and her thoughts were racing. It's time to change the management direction of Maui Company. They shouldn't focus on Yuanying small territory, Xingtian, Fangyao. If they can take advantage of this opportunity to find a way out, they might be able to ride the wind of the stars and soar into the sky. She had already thought about it, and when she went back, she would tell Qingyu and the others what she had seen and heard today. That opportunity was fleeting. Maui Company must seize the opportunity in Lin Yuan Star's era of open traffic. I originally thought that Sister Chu, as a high-level martial artist, would have a deeper understanding of the development of Lin Yuanqing's martial arts, but now it seems that I'm thinking too much. If that's the case, I'll look for others. Wait a minute, I'm also interested in the development of martial arts. Chu Yao interrupted her immediately. Seeing that Hikayushi was about to leave, she reached out to grab her arm. Fat Sheep was already in sight. There was no reason to let it go. Hikayushi was slightly surprised, but he still sat down and leaned back. Actually, our Maui Company is also planning to change. Chu Yao revealed her intentions to Hikayushi, and also introduced the situation of Maui Security Company. The other party's eyes lit up again. Is this swordsmanship and gymnastics also Sister Chu's family's martial arts? Well, it's partly, but we have adjusted it to be more suitable for real fighting. It has integrated modern sauna and fighting skills. One person can be 10 times more. Can you allow me to go on a steady tour to your company? Hikayushi replied after thinking for a while. It's very important. I have to discuss it with my mother. And the president. Yes, of course. No problem. Chu Yao excitedly came out of the phone. Let's make an appointment first. This way, let's add fusion first. Hikayushi was also a straightforward person, and the two of them hurriedly. The appointment was set for the morning of a week later. Actually, this is just my random idea. After all, our Qingshu company has no experience in this area, but we can't let other companies steal the crowd first. As for setting up a martial arts gym, will it be successful? No, I will try my best to find a professional team, conduct an assessment. In short, investigation and research are still necessary. Quote, no problem. Chu Yao smiled, almost showing happiness on her face. She wasn't afraid of failure, but of getting lost. Now that Hikayushi had fallen, he had already taken the most important first step. All beginnings are hard. With the first step, you don't have to worry about not having the second step. Hee. Hikayushi covered her mouth and sneered. Sister Chu, you look like that Senyu. Quote, he just fell out of love. I have no money. Chu Yao stuck out her tongue playfully. Shall we go back to the place? Okay, I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 142, Explosion. When Chu Yao and Hikayushi returned to the reception, it was almost time to get off work. Except for the joke made by Senyu and the group of male friends in the middle, the process was smooth. On the faces of the people, there was both joy and sadness. However, some negotiations were completed and some were not. Chu Yao said goodbye. Hikayushi took Shu Binger, who was waiting outside, to meet Qingyu and Sharon, and left together. Both of them smelled of alcohol. Sharon was fine. She was cultivating her chi. Ordinary people couldn't drink her, but Qingyu's footsteps were a little useless. Teacher Chen, I remember you were quite good at drinking alcohol, right? Chu Yao joked with him as they walked. When I was heavy, I drank a few more glasses. Brother Chu, you can't imagine it. Sob, how successful have you been today? Drinking too much will cause serious trouble. This isn't something you do. Chu Yao deliberately teased him, so she poked his waist, and Qingyu was about to fall unsteadily. Okay, don't tease him. Geng Sharon, who couldn't see clearly, reached out and patted Qingyu's back. With a jolt of spiritual energy, the latter's drunkenness disappeared as if he had suddenly been shaken and woken up again. Thank you, Sharon. Qingyu pinched and massaged his temples a few times, and his gaze returned to gaming. Several people got on the car, and under Chu Yao's signal, Xiaoran and Qingyu sat on the same platform as her. Before the two of them could report the results of this Chamber of Commerce, Chu Yao took the lead, and they will compete with Shao Kahn and Hikayushi. The experience of the two of them knowing each other for the first time will tell. I think the few contracts I just signed have already had a large number of orders. But Sister Chu, I didn't expect that you would quietly get two big customers. Group and Qingshu Group, these two companies are interstellar giants. I didn't expect that we would actually build a bridge with them. Quote, hey, I'm fine. Chu Yao put his hands on her hips proudly. Shao Kahn, I know this person. Geng Sharon swiped his phone a few times. His father is the vice president of Linyuan Basho branch, a very capable person who works at the grassroots level. As for the relationship between the two, the Xiao family and the Li family have been friends for generations, and this friendship has been passed down from their grandparents. Therefore, the two companies have maintained a close relationship and have had many cooperations in various fields. Of course, there is a relative relationship. Chu Yao nodded, which was not far from what she had thought before. Opening the era of traffic. Sister Chu is a good name. Our business idea should be long-term. Although pharmaceuticals also have a wide market, it is still too difficult for Maui Company to be ranked first in the stars. Power alone, anyway. Chen Qingyu tapped his chin with a thoughtful expression. It should focus on products that are not yet in Ling Yuan Star, and it should focus on technological products. Since martial arts and other industries can be introduced, there might be other sky industries that we do not know. Shu Binger gave advice and suggestions while driving. We also have to consider our current size. We can't eat hot tofu, and we can't eat tofu that is too big. Seeing that they started to discuss the topic, Chu Yao closed her eyes and rested in relief. Sports car drove on the flight path, and the large sky gradually disappeared from sight, becoming a silhouette on the horizon. After taking a nap, they returned home. Chu Yao was the first to push the door of Princess Yi. As soon as she walked in the door, she saw Su Wawa excitedly rushing in, carrying Xiaonan on her shoulders. Sister Chu, you're so hot. What the hell? She took out the mobile phone Xiao had handed her and looked at it. It was full of news related to the Liberty City Chamber of Commerce today. The name, Chu Yi, was in the top 3 hot search lists, the youngest female entrepreneur in Zindu history. Expert evaluation, sitting on tens of millions in assets. From Tianai to Ling Yuan, I'll take you back to the past and present of the Maowei Group. Quote, the Liberty City Chamber of Commerce is fighting? Shang-Chi and Maowei seem to be at odds. Why did Sen Yu leave the scene halfway? The reporter brought you a special secret. Su Huo ran over excitedly and flicked the phone. Mr. Chu, look at the first article. It's about a beauty entrepreneur, and it has been clicked 400,000 times. Chu Yao clicked on it. Of course, the reading volume was still soaring, and the comment area below has everything to say. Your sister Chu is a big celebrity now. Geng Xiaoran walked over to top with a smile on the corner of her mouth. These reporters always want to make big news. Chu Yao pretended to be calm and returned the phone to Xiaohua, but everyone could see the satisfaction in her eyes. Chen Qingyu looked at her with a smile. This elder Chu is good at everything, but he likes to show off, which seems to be unchangeable. Okay, you guys are busy first. I'll go back to the room and rest for a while. Chu Yao returned to the room, closed the door, and finally couldn't hold back her face, and excitedly jumped into the room, rolling around a few times. Once upon a time, she was also in this position, holding the mobile phone with a gloomy face and worrying about how to make money, but now she finally got what she wanted. She quietly cancelled the Feiyu account of Chu Yi, chef of the Catdog Gang, which still had only a few dozen fans, and then registered new accounts in Feiyu and Wanyu Shimbo. Fusion for communication, Feiyu for watching short videos, and Wanyu Shimbo, the largest social media platform, were all developed by the same software developer Wanyu Company. Speaking of which, Wanyu Company is also one of the best companies in the Celestial Society, chasing Steel Dome Company. If these companies were ranked, Steel Dome and Wanyu would be T0 level giants, which were ahead. The second level is Yali, Bodu, Kakai Business Alliance, etc. Jixin, Qingshu, etc. can be counted as the third level. The same goes for Shangxi Group, as a local powerhouse. It can also be counted as the fourth level. Catdog Company can barely be counted in the fourth level at the moment. This is the most widely recognized ranking on the internet. The criteria for the classification are the number of planets the company owns, and whether the company has the ability to explore between the stars, that is, whether it has star-level spacecraft. First level has at least 3 or more planets, the second level has 1 or 2, and the third level has unoccupied planets. In fact, if you talk about it carefully, this classification standard is biased, because the standard is too simple and does not take into account the overall strength and actual situation of each company. For example, although Boss only has 1 Boss Star under his umbrella, the fleet is very strong, and the military strength is comparable to Steel Dome. Jixin Group is in the third level, but their reputation in the field of electronics technology is 3 points better than Wayu. Chu Yi, the chairman of Maowei Group. Is the name too long? Changed from chairman to president? No, it's still too long. Leave it to Chu Yi. Chu Yao struggled for a long time and finally settled her own Shimbo account successfully after some actions. Chu Yi, the current chairman of Maowei Group, when she saw the small golden hook under her profile picture, Chu Yao could not hold back her joy. What should I post on my first Weibo? This is a very important question. I have to think about it. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 143 What's Wrong? Chu Yao struggled for a long time and didn't know what to post, so before removing her makeup, she stood in front of the half-open window and took a selfie. After taking the photo, she tried to edit and edited with Maidu for a long time, and finally Dee also sent out this important first post. In the picture, Chu Yao was wearing a dress, leaning against the half-open window and looking into the distance. Her slightly side cheek had a beautiful shadow under the setting sun. The accompanying text, Newcomer, please take care of me. Chu Yao clicked send with trembling hands. She didn't look very excited when she was promoted to nascent soul. However, it was a completely different experience, and there weren't many people watching her when she was promoted. Soon, she received her first comment. I remember correctly. Who is this? It seemed to be a passerby. Chu Yao had only read half a sentence, when suddenly Lu Hai's comment popped up. He pressed the first one down. Chu Yi has been certified Shimbo. Is this a selfie? It's better than the one the reporter took. First, beauty entrepreneur. That's right. Stick it. Quote, I go first. Looming, the fire stick, witnesses history. Chu Yao's mobile phone vibrated and beeped continuously. The screen froze, and the body heated up soon after, and she also used the ice bath technique to cool down. The number of mews became 99 plus in an instant, and she couldn't see it with the speed of her monk's hand. As soon as the red dot disappeared, there were immediately a large number of red dots. Soon, the first big B posted a message in the comments, and the fans' likes and replies immediately pushed this comment forward. Little sister welcome sister Chu to Shimbo. Chu Yao knew that this must be a smart idea, so she replied with a sincere face. The second big B who joined him was Wing Xiaokan. Welcome Chairman Chu of Maui Group. The future is bright. Chu Yao replied with a fist hug. Two important figures from Interstellar Corporation sent congratulatory messages on their own initiative, which made many people feel unusual and speculate about their relationship in the comment area. The appearance of these two people once again sparked a hot topic. Not to mention their extraordinary identities, these two people have their own traffic, and both of them are Big V with millions of fans. Since Qingxu and Boduo were talking continuously, the operations of other companies naturally did not ignore Baijian's enthusiasm. Except for a few cold companies, many companies sent congratulatory messages in the comments, and some famous bloggers did the same. Suddenly, there was excitement, and the numbers uncontrollably exceeded the target of more than 10,000. The popularity continued to rise, and the topic of Chu Shai quickly rose to the second place in the hot list, approaching the first place, Flash Rainbow Group. The number of her fans also increased exponentially, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people. In the end, it dropped to 920,000, but it was still increasing. Chu Yao's face was flushed as if she had drunk wine, and her heart felt a little turbulent. The happiness came too quickly, which made her feel like a dream. There was a knock on the door. Chu Yao took a deep breath to calm down. Come in. Geng Xiaoran walked in, followed by two little girls, and Xiao Hua was one of them. She rushed towards Chu Yao. Beauty entrepreneur. I'm your fan. Please sign me, Tilda. Sign. You can sign. Chu Yao grabbed her head with both hands and rubbed it. She looked at Xiaoran. What? Does it matter? These things can't be kept in your room, right? Xiaoran pointed at the mountain of materials on the table. I've talked to Qingyu. We'll just throw them on the floor. Get them out of the dark room and move them there. Okay, no problem. Chu Yao conjured up a ballpoint pen, and with Xiao Hua's scream, she lifted her clothes and was about to write her name. I advise you to calm down. Geng Xiaoran cleared his throat softly and advised, being popular isn't necessarily a good thing. There are many people who are popular, and it doesn't matter where you are. Of course, I understand. I can't help but be happy today. Chu Yao replied with a smile. Xiao Hua, ask the chef to do something good today and I will pay for it. Then, amidst Geng Xiaoran's urging, he picked up a stack of documents and walked out. But Chu Yao didn't expect that something wrong would happen so quickly. When everything was settled and they were having dinner on the first floor, they suddenly heard a car coming from outside, and the girl guarding the door rushed in to report. Brother Chu, a large group of people came out. Outside, reporters, they are clamoring to interview you, and we can't stop them at all. Interview? Chu Yao wiped his mouth with a piece of paper. Okay, let me go see them. Stop. Geng Xiaoran grabbed her. Did you forget what you encountered a few days ago? It's just an interview, no big deal. Chu Yao's eyes were blank. Do you know how many of these reporters are real and how many are fake? Geng Xiaoran pressed Chu Yao's shoulder and stood up. Even if they are all true, who knows what their purpose is? Are they sincere interviews or do you want to dig up black magic on you? Chu Yao knew that Xiaoran was right, and now was not the time to let her guard down. She nodded reluctantly. That's right. You don't have to worry about the outside matters. Let me handle them. Xiaoran left the dining table and walked towards the door. But even though she couldn't leave, her spiritual sense still followed her silently and through her dry addiction. Xiaoran spent a long time talking nonsense before he coaxed the reporters who were crowded outside the door to leave, but there were still some who didn't. Princess Yi was like a thief. It seemed that they would not stop until they found some news. She had just sat down, and before she had eaten, another group of people walked out the door. This time, she did not want the little girl to report. She had seen it clearly through her spiritual sense, and when she saw the appearance of this group of people, Chu Yao had a strange expression on her face. There were not many people in this group, only about 10 people. All of them were men, and their ages were between 20 and 30. They were holding signs, and the two of them spread out on the left and right, with the big characters, Chu Shai Fan Support Group. These people used Princess Yi as the background, and while holding the signs, there were people inside. Photo fee. At least these people did not barge in like the previous reporters, so they would not be chased away, right? Chu Yao did not know what this fan group was going to do, but another group of people walked over from the other side of the street. Dozens of men, women, and children held signs in their hands and shouted slogans in unison. Oppose Cat Dog Company. Resist technology and pharmas. Technology is the root of all evil. Meow. this scene looks familiar, doesn't it? At first, Chu Yao, who looked down on this group of money collectors and troublemakers in front of the Kansas Association, never thought that now that the feng shui had changed, these people would actually swim to their door. And these two groups of people, this gathering seemed to be some kind of conflict. They were also cursing at each other, looking at the way they rolled up their arms and sleeves, as if they were going to fight in the street the next second. There were people eating melons and watching dramas nearby, and the entrance of Princess Yi seemed to have become a vegetable market, which was very lively. The little girl who reported the letter was sweating. Xiao Ran put down her bowl and chopsticks again. Chu Yao looked at her hopelessly, and then went out again. Chu Yao rubbed her forehead and looked at Chu Binger beside her. Let your brother send more people here. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 144 Stealing Fish. Brother Chu, I have something to tell you. After the meal, Xiao Hua found Chu Yao with a serious face. Huh? What happened? Chu Yao was still half lying on the sofa to look at Shimbo, and blinked at Xiao Huo. It's not like her. It's about Xiaonan. Su Huo's expression instantly became serious, which made Chu Yao feel a little uncomfortable. She's not just a robot, is she? Why do you say that? I found something strange. It seemed that my and Shen Yu's guess that day was correct. Apart from her appearance, Xiaonan is just like any other child. Xiao Hua pursed his lips. It's the same as today. She suddenly cried and wanted to eat, saying that it had been so long. The time I haven't tasted it. I don't know what to do. And I dare not let you look in the mirror. Chu Yao thought for a moment, and told Xiao Hua about the conversation with Shen Yu earlier. If she is really a human, she is still so young. How could she accept the fact that she has become a machine? Let alone her, if I suddenly become like that, I might fall down. Xiao Human, little sister. Chu, what are you going to do to her? Chu Yao patted her on the shoulder. She originally planned to send Xiaonan directly back to the Jixing Company, but after experiencing the incidents involving the Blood Customer Alliance, Chu Yao secretly felt that this was not a good idea. Since I will go to see the Jixing Company sooner or later, it would be better to wait until the mission is completed before making a decision. She understood Xiao Hua's feelings because she had been with Xiaonan during this time. However, in Chu Yao's eyes, Xiaonan was not like a living person, because she could not feel Xiaonan's soul. If Xiaonan had a soul in her body, she might have used a secret technique to transform her into another body. This was how human puppets were made. A human puppet was a human puppet. Imprisoning a person's soul in a refined puppet was a rather evil spell, somewhat similar to refining a corpse. Ordinary puppetry could not make a puppet too intelligent. Even if it could, it would require a lot of materials and time, but puppetry could. Chu Yao often used such cruel methods to deal with enemies, but today, she suddenly thought of this, and it could be used to save people's lives. It was a pity that Xiaonan was a dead thing, but there should always be a way. Chu Yao was always confident, but she would not say these words to Xiao Hua. She turned around and comforted Xiao Hua with a few more words. So, please take care of her for a while longer. A voice floated by my ear. Xiaonan came from the other side of the hall on wheels, and Xiao Hua hugged her. Big sister, have you agreed to take Xiaonan to see her mother? There's nothing to say. Sister is looking for you. Chu Yao tapped her head. But Zendu is too big, and there are too many hospitals. My sister can't find them for a while, so Xiaonan can only stay for a few more days. Quote, that's right. Okay. Xiaonan will wait. You're good. A month later, Chu Yao had a rare and stable life. The reward offered on the Bloodthirsty Alliance's homepage had not yet been accepted. It was estimated that many people would retreat when they saw that it was a B rank. This was a good thing, and it would save you from having to deal with these assassins. The cooperation with EKOC was a great success. After checking out the security company, she became very interested in gymnastics and swordsmanship. It was then that Chu Yao learned that the inheritance of the art fighting is an extremely important part of opening a martial arts gym. The two parties have signed some documents and reached a preliminary agreement, and the development of a martial arts hall has officially entered the first stage. The number of Chu Yao's fans on Shimbo has been increasing steadily, and has already exceeded 1 million, but she still has no idea about the operation for now. After the initial novelty wore off, Chu Yao left alone, and it was still the first newcomer. After increasing the security forces and Gong Shaoran's appearances several times, the number of people at Princess Yi's door finally decreased a lot. Although there were occasional visitors, at least it would not affect everyone's normal life. Princess Yi was still the name of a nightclub, but there were not many customers. It was like a stronghold for everyone in Cat Dog Company, and they came here to rest and relax when they had nothing to do. The remaining time, Chu Yao spent time refining weapons. The work time that the curtain said was coming soon. She had to make some preparations to ensure that nothing went wrong. In addition to repairing the scarves damaged by the previous fight, she also improved other materials, so that she would have a boost in morale. Time passed to May 3rd. Chu Yao bought a laptop that allowed her to go to the internet cafe every time. Today, she logged into Shuigei's main website as usual, and a private message from Curtin arrived. On the 5th, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, gather at Jinan Park in front of Jixin's headquarters. This time, he spoke briefly. In addition to this sentence, there was also a document below with an action code name, Steel fish. ... What a strange codename. Chu Yao opened the file and studied it seriously. This mission was not an assassination, but an infiltration. They had to steal things from Jishin's headquarters. But stealing was naturally the job of B-class assassins, and these C-class and D-class assassins were only responsible for keeping watch. As for what was going to be stolen, low-level assassins were not allowed to see it. 12 people were in charge, 2 B grade, 2 C grade, and 8 D grade. The distribution of the rewards was also clearly written. B grade would be divided equally into 400 million, the remaining 100 million would be divided equally to C grade, and the 8 D grade would be divided equally into 50 million. If the curtains were worth 20%, the remaining 7 people, including Chu Yao, would have 40 million to share, and each of them would have at least 5 million in their account. This reward was much greater than the ordinary D grade missions. Chu Yao greeted Shaoran, and then arrived at Shuidi's dorm a day earlier, and changed into her appearance again. She sat cross-legged in the room, adjusting her body and mind to the best condition. At midnight, Chu Yao turned into a black shadow and jumped out of the window. Fortunately, Shuidi's residence was not far from Jinan Park, otherwise she would have spent half a day on the streets. Putting on the mask, the blood butterfly appeared again in the world. Jinan Park, which was covered in darkness, was exceptionally quiet. It was not crowded during the day, and it was more terrifying and mysterious. The logs were swaying in the evening breeze, and insects chirped and disappeared from time to time. The streetlights in the park had been turned off, and the Jishin Company building not far away covered the starry sky like a giant mountain, and everywhere was dark. Looking from above, this park seemed to have become a wasteland in Zindu, with neon lights flickering around, but this place was as dark as an abyss. Chu Yao couldn't help but feel that these people knew how to choose a place, and with the darkness covering it, the bloodthirsty people could show themselves better. The park was large, but Chu Yao was not worried about finding people. With her divine sense, she could see all the troubles in her eyes. She hid in the trees to observe the surrounding situation, and it didn't take long before she noticed a movement. A small orgasm was coming. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 145 Animals. Except for Chu Yao, this should be the first person to come here. She was surprised that this person took a taxi, and after getting off the car, he walked to the center of the park with indescribable calmness. At first, she thought it was a passageway until the person walked into the public restroom, changed his clothes, and put on a mask and walked out. This was also an acquaintance. Chu Yao saw the familiar lizard on his mask. Coupled with what the curtain had said earlier, Chu Yao guessed that the face he was walking by was not real either. A confident person was naturally cautious. There was a noise from the underground manhole cover on the walkway. Chu Yao saw a sharp iron protruding from the edge of the round manhole cover. Before going out, he turned his head and looked around cautiously. Flying in the sky, swimming in the water, Jinan Park suddenly became lively at night. The Bloody Lions gathered a group of strange people. Compared to these people, Chu Yao, who was walking, was quite normal. These people gathered quickly. Chu Yao saw that almost all of them were there and fell down from the trees. Curtin and the lizard nodded towards her, and the first one stopped chattering. There were 11 people in total, and it seemed that one person was missing, but the others did not say anything, and Chu Yao did not ask. Let me introduce myself. I'm Pterosaur, the leader of the B-level team. One of them walked out. Everyone moved closer to him. The car has been installed, and your job is to respond and observe the situation. Musket and Tangi were 2 C-level Pterosaur raised their hands and looked at their watches. Let's go. Remember to report the situation when you arrive at the designated place. The plan will officially start in 10 minutes. After everyone nodded, they started. Take action. Chu Yao and Curtin were assigned to the same group, led by Tang Yi. Chameleon and Chaozi were assigned to the Musketeer group. After the Pterosaur finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the building. Chu Yao thought about it, and left a mark on him with his spiritual sense. This mission had nothing to do with psychers, and they had no defenses involved. No one noticed the mark Chu Yao had left. She followed the people through the dark forest while observing the terrain nearby. Only one B rank had appeared, and they hadn't arrived yet, or the other B ranks must have been hiding in the Jishin Company. If it was the latter, the customer who collected the money had already planned for the Jishin Company long ago. Put on the electronic watch I sent you just now. This thing can determine everyone's location, and it can also send messages. If you find anything unusual, be sure to report the situation to me at any time. Tang Yi, who was walking in front, urged. Chu Yao raised his hand and looked over. If you didn't speak, who would have thought it was an ordinary smartwatch? They must find a way to get rid of these people. They were responsible for the north side of the building. This was a wide street, and the other side seemed to be the Jishin Company's factory. It was very late, and it seemed that there were still people working overtime. Chu Yao faintly heard the sound of machinery coming from the factory. They gathered beside the car wrapped in plastic sheets, and then, under Tang Yi's management, the 5 people dispersed throughout the factory with him at the center. Before leaving, Chu Yao used a small spell to quietly leave 2 emerald green stones on the chassis of the car, leaving traces of her own spirit. That's right, these were just 2 middle-grade spirit stones. It wasn't that Chu Yao hadn't done anything this month. As the company's president, she had a wider network than when she was at the Baishan mine. As long as the cat-eyed people paid a little attention, they could buy or obtain a lot of green stones. Unfortunately, the amount they found was too little, not enough for her to practice, but there was still room for bombs. Chu Yao arrived at the area she was assigned to guard, found a remote location, threw away her watch, and turned back the way she had come. As long as he moved fast enough, Tang Yu wouldn't notice anything unusual. He hadn't said that it should report information regularly and at the exact point. In fact, the role of this watch was more for communication, and the positioning was just a coincidence. But these bloodthirsty people who were used to dirty work had never thought that there would be a ghost between them, and Tang Yu probably wouldn't have thought that someone would have run away halfway. A person is worth millions. Chu Yao walked through the park, found another car with her spiritual power, glued a spirit stone to the body in the same manner, and followed the mark she had left before, heading in the direction the pterosaur had left. The building of the Jixing company was very tall. Chu Yao estimated that it had 70 or 80 floors. She hid her body and quickly sneaked in, following the traces. In her eyes, the pterosaur's trail seemed to have left a watermark, which was clearly visible. Following his traces, Chu Yao came to an air vent and jumped down without the slightest hesitation. The pipe was narrow enough for an adult to crawl through, and the pipe was complicated, but under the pterosaur's lead, the trail was clearly visible. Chu Yao noticed that he was walking down. Chu Yao moved lightly through the iron pipe like a kitten, and quickly closed the distance between him and the pterosaur. When her consciousness was released, she even saw the back of the pterosaur. He finally slowed down, holding a small tablet in his hand, which looked like a folded mobile phone. He was checking the map. "Are you really a pterosaur, big brother? How could you punch a hole like a mouse? I thought you would fly in." After 2 more rounds, the pterosaur opened the vent, rolled over, and jumped out. Below was a small room with white walls on all sides. Chu Yao didn't look closely, and waited for the pterosaur to push the door and enter the deep room before she followed closely behind. White. At first glance, it was all white. It was as clean as the ward that Chu Yao used to live in. When she really arrived at this room, Chu Yao realized that it wasn't that small. It was at least the same size as Princess Yi's hall on the first floor. She slowly opened her eyes and looked around while observing the pterosaur's situation. Chu Yao's face changed, and she saw something strange in the room the pterosaur had just entered. The pterosaur had moved deeper into it. Chu Yao looked at the electronic screen with the password in front of him, and used the wall-penetrating technique to peer through it. It was still a clean white room like new, but there were many things on both sides of the room. A long table was lined up in row. On the long table were various large and small square glass cages. The cages were neatly stacked and divided the entire room like a glass wall. There were all kinds of animals in the cages. There were little white mice, a pair of rabbits and monkeys, cats, dogs, bats, and many more. Chu Yao also saw a large water tank in the corner of the room, which had a small dolphin in it. After a while, it was like entering some kind of animal exhibition hall. No, it was more of a laboratory than an exhibition hall. The strange thing was that these animals had gloomy faces as if their souls had been sucked out, and they were all curled up in the corners of the cages without moving. Chu Yao saw a little rabbit whose body was still swaying up and down with breath, proving that these animals were still alive, but for some reason, they did not react at all. She even dared to knock on the glass wall of the cage, but the little animals still did not respond. At the end of the long table at the very end, Chu Yao finally saw something different. A small white mouse the size of a palm, but unlike other animals, it was locked in a metal cage, made of black iron, and the top and bottom circles looked like a bird cage. Seeing Chu Yao approaching, the little white mouse was running around excitedly, which made Chu Yao curious about it, and she walked over to it to take a look. Chu Yao was looking at it, and it was looking at this strange visitor with curiosity. Compared to other dull-faced beasts, it had a special spiritual quality, squatting in the cage, with a pair of black eyes the size of beans peeking all over Chu Yao's body. However, it seemed that it was all there. Chu Yao did not expect to find anything from the little mouse. She had other things to do, and if she delayed, the pterosaur might run far away. As she turned around to leave, the little white mouse immediately opened its mouth. Hearing this, the hairs all over Chu Yao's body stood on end, and her numb scalp was about to explode. "Little sister, can you help me take Xiaonan to see her mother? I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 146 Mecha." As soon as the child's voice came out of the mouse's mouth, Chu Yao's masked face was also filled with shock. "Isn't that what elder sister is talking about? Then, aren't you younger sister? Anyone with long hair is a younger sister." Chu Yao didn't answer. She took 2 steps back. "Jixing Company, what are they experimenting with?" The little white mouse was still jumping around in the cage, and when it saw that Chu Yao left without saying a word, it looked disappointed, so it lay down in the cage and muttered. Chu Yao's palms were sweating. She could be considered a well-informed nascent soul cultivator, but her heart skipped a beat when she saw the strange scene in front of her. Coupled with Shen Yu's guess, the only thing Chu Yao could think of was that the memories of Xiaonan were not only stuffed into the robot, but also into the little mouse in front of him. It wasn't just this little white mouse. Chu Yao looked around. When she saw the other little animals locked in the glass cage again, her gaze changed. This was the only success, and the other animals were failures. Then, are they all? Nan. Chu Yao didn't want to think about it anymore. She took 2 deep breaths to calm herself down. Now wasn't the time to think about these things. She had to solve the problem of those 2 B-ranked assassins first, and perhaps what they wanted to steal was inextricably linked to the strange experiment here. Chu Yao retreated to the password door in the depths of the laboratory, and was about to walk through the wall. Suddenly, she felt something was wrong. She passed through the wall with her spiritual sense, and found that the pterosaur had returned, followed by a middle-aged man in a white coat with a mask covering his face, and the 2 of them rushed over at an extremely fast speed. Are they moving so fast? After a few beeps, the electronic door opened immediately, and the 2 were retreating collided with Chu Yao. The movements of the 2 parties slowed down, and they stopped at the same time, without anyone saying anything first. Obviously, the pterosaur didn't expect to encounter a blood butterfly here. He and the man in white looked at each other, and were about to rush out regardless of Shui Dai's obstruction. Chu Yao didn't care about the actions of these 2 people. In her eyes, no matter how strong these bloodline men were, they were just ordinary people, and they were no threat to them without spiritual weapons. Her gaze fell on what the man in white was holding. It was a long, black box shaped like a brick. From the interface exposed on the base, Chu Yao could guess that it was a portable hard drive. After all this hard work, they just wanted to steal this? Holding her hands behind her back, her gaze fell on the mobile hard drive. As the 2 approached, Chu Yao suddenly pulled out a sharp dagger from her thigh and slashed at the man in white. The knife was moving very fast, and the piercing scream caused the pupils behind the man's mask to shrink. However, he did not stop his advancement. On the contrary, his body twisted into a strange arc, bending to the left in an exaggerated arc as if he had lost a bone and escaped the attack with a single leap. She noticed that a dark green snake was drawn on the man's mask. There were vicious fangs in his bloody mouth. At the same time that Chu Yao drew her sword, the alarm bell in the laboratory rang, and red lights flashed from the 4 corners of the ceiling. She felt the floor of the room shake vaguely, and the entire building fell into chaos. Let's go first, the pterosaur said briefly to the poisonous snake, then pulled out his weapon and turned to block Chu Yao. The whip wrapped around the electric whip shattered into pieces, striking Chu Yao like twisted lightning under the pterosaur's swing. Want to go? It's not that easy. She easily dodged the attack and was about to cast a restraining spell, but suddenly saw a shocking change in the 2 of them. Chu Yao saw that the pterosaur quickly grabbed his waist with both hands, and then silver glittering sequins spread and grew from his back, and these sequins were still in the process of spreading. The change took place, spreading from the torso to the limbs, covering the pterosaur's entire body layer by layer in a few seconds, even covering its head. It seemed that he was wearing another layer of silver armor that fit his body perfectly. The blue-black lines that showed the outline of a human body in detail, and the uniform gray and white wings grew out from under his arms, and 2 copper eyes opened. At the visor, the mouth protruded rapidly, and a cold white vapor was gushed between the half-opened sharp teeth. He seemed to have transformed into a robot, and the armor all over his body reflected the industrial aesthetics. The industries of heaven and man were fully realized. As he performed, Viper did the same, except his armor was green all over, like a scaled venomous snake, and each scale was clearly visible. It seemed that in order to ensure the safety of their actions, they did not intend to hold back at all, and directly launched a big move. While the 2 were wearing the armor, Chu Yao found that her capture technique had no effect on them. Did it have a spiritual blocking effect? Chu Yao's fixation technique was basically a consciousness spell, and what was fixed was not so much the body, but the opponent's soul. Suddenly, it failed, and I immediately understood what had happened. The words she had just heard flashed through her mind. Mega. Chu Yao had watched some of Tianren's movies and television shows, and had always thought that this thing was a big person, but this was the first time I had seen this kind of self-cultivation. But that didn't stop me. Wei Yin took both steps forward. Chu Yao's body turned into a strange thick fog, crossed the pterosaur, and chased in the direction the venomous snake had left. But she had just woken up, and the pterosaurs were faster than her. His arms trembled, and with the help of the blue flames from his shoulders and hind legs, he blocked Chu Yao's eyes. His body rubbed against the air at a rapid speed, causing an explosion. An electric whip appeared on his palm again. This time, it came directly from both palms. Both arms were raised and lowered, and the swung-up arc was like soft scissors, blocking all possible tracking areas. In just a moment, the poisonous snakes had already fled. The mechanism caused them to explode at an unparalleled speed, and they disappeared at the end of the room in an instant. Chu Yao glided down from the air. This speed was impossible for ordinary people, and it was close to that of a monk in the Foundation establishment state. Run away! Her goal has been achieved. Moreover, Chu Yao did not hesitate. Sicker? A mechanical voice came from behind the pterosaur's visor. Is this your true face, Sweetie? The pterosaur shouted into the intercom on the helmet. Viper, the situation has changed. Come back quickly. Viper, why aren't you answering me? What they didn't know was that the poisonous snake was stopped by a third party who had entered the game. Take care of yourself. Chu Yao recited the formula in his mouth and started to fight back. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 147 Core. Clear, clear. In the long corridor, the green armored Viper was squeezed and unable to move by countless robots. If Chu Yao was present, you would find that the general appearance of these robots was similar to Yang&n, but the various accessories on their bodies made them look strange. Some had propellers on their heads to move in the air, and were equipped with machine guns on their wings. Some were equipped with explosion-proof armor on all sides, and long electric forks extended from their bodies. Many times, their bodies were split into 4 parts, up and down, with sharp blades like electric saws flowing in the cracks. Each robot had different shaped weapons. The only thing they had in common was the cold-blooded commands they shouted in unison, and the red warning lights flashing on their bodies. This army of machines is approaching terrifyingly and gathering in small groups from a distance. They are all a dense black and white machine group. The face of the telescreen has a large prohibition sign and red light flashing in one piece. No way. Someone has set the alarm somewhere else. The body of the poisonous snake shrank into a ball and rolled 4 or 5 meters away on the pavement, followed by aerial shooting, leaving clear bullet marks on the ground where he rolled. In order to complete this operation, he had been infiltrating the Jixin company for half a year, and he was very familiar with the various internal departments. I thought it would be safe when I finally met the business today, but I didn't expect it to be so close to the door, but such a variable happened. Unlike the pterodactyl's light mechanism, his mechanism did not have many offensive weapon modules, which was more agile but lacked combat effectiveness. When facing the guards, the agility was also tasteless. He could only try his best to dodge the rain of bullets, and then he was gradually compacted by the rows of protective shields in the space where he could perform. Unscientific. As if responding to the Viper's inner cry, a figure suddenly appeared in the fleet. This person looked undisciplined and was still smoking leisurely. Who are you? It's impossible for a general alarm to alert so many guardians. Even the president doesn't have that kind of authority. Guardians? After all, they're just a pile of scrap metal that can only follow orders. The visitor didn't intend to chat with the Viper and was surrounded by guardian robots. He pressed on the Viper step by step. You should know what I want, Mr. Viper. While avoiding the attack, the Viper finally saw the face of the person who came to see him, and the mask with a rag drawn on it tilted on his face. Your AD class curtain. Viper's figure bounced off a wall, and he shot down the flying guard with the sword-shaped weapon in his hand. It seemed that he wasn't powerless to fight back, it was just that there were too many enemies. What is your relationship with Blood Butterfly? And what do you want to do after infiltrating the Bloodslayer Alliance? I have no obligation to answer you, Mr. Viper. I'll give you 10 seconds, or give you the core, or I'll take it from a corpse layer in 10 seconds. Curtin spoke coldly, but he felt a little guilty in his heart. Blood Butterfly, didn't she do the math herself? Why is she here? Why is Shame interested? It seems that many people are thinking of Jixin's essence. You tell them to stop, and I will give it. Impossible. Humph, then you have succeeded. The large scales on the poisonous snake's belly also disappeared, and then picked up, pulled out a dark, hard disk, and threw it toward Curtin. Curtin reached out to grab it, and when I first got it, I knew something was wrong. This core seemed too late. The Alliance will not let you go. The poisonous snake said fiercely, taking advantage of the other party's doubts, then jumped up again, smashed the vent on the top of his head with a bang, and walked away. It's slippery like loach. Curtin put one hand to his ear and adjusted the headphones. Lian, he ran along the vent. Got it. A mature female voice sounded in his ears. From that, a group of airborne guard robots flew towards the vent one by one with a strong wind. It seemed that she was the one behind the control of these machines. The movements of the other robots around paused for a few seconds, then dispersed in all directions. It seemed that they had received a new order, and the area around the curtain quickly emptied. It was just that the alarm had not stopped, and the riot in the Jixin building continued, and the lights were turned on, and the staff behind Jixin were panicking. The curtain that had appeared in the corridor groaned for a moment, then gave up the plan to go to the main laboratory to check the situation. He put the fake hardcore into his pocket and retreated resolutely. No matter where this Blood Butterfly came from, it had nothing to do with him. If there was such a person who was delaying the pterosaurs, it was natural for him to waste his time. Under the remote command of Lian, the distance between him and the poisonous snake was gradually narrowing. In the main laboratory, Chu Yao and the pterosaurs were fighting fiercely. She did not expect that the pterosaurs wearing mechanical puppets would be so difficult to deal with. The spiritual consciousness could not be penetrated, and the 5 elements of magic were almost useless, and the skin of the mechanism was also very strong. Chu Yao's soul extraction knife during the Foundation establishment stage cut him, leaving only a shallow white mark. What shocked him most was the pterosaur's speed. With the help of the flying wings on both arms and the blue flame reinforcements on on both legs. The pterosaur's escape speed had almost reached the middle foundation establishment stage, comparable to Chu Yao's speed. Within half a minute, the two had fought more than 10 rounds in the house. The glass cage was shattered into pieces under the aftermath. Use it all to let this woman see and see. Fortunately, Chu Yao was more capable. However, she still had many more cards to use. She was comfortable and happy, but the pterosaur was very worried. The poisonous snake could not respond, coupled with the non-stop siren sound. It must have been an accident. Are you kidding? The pterosaur was furious at the opponent's inequality, and 2 more whips appeared on both palms. 6 whips danced out of nowhere, heading towards Chu Yao with great power. He really was uncomfortable. Chu Yao's spell hit him, although it could not destroy the robot, but his body withstood the impact. A black shadow resembling a boomerang knife shot towards him, and the pterosaur felt like his bones were about to break. In order to make the plan go smoothly, he had made a lot of preparations and checked the backgrounds of these low-level personnel more clearly. Tweety was obviously isolated. When did she become such a powerful psychic? It wasn't that the pterosaur had never done anything related to psychers. If he had a magic stone weapon in his hand, he wouldn't be afraid of these barbarians at all. The problem was, he wasn't prepared at all. This group of blood bandits, who were used to schemes, finally tasted the pain of being schemed by others. Which family are you from? Chu Yao brushed her messy hair, as if she hadn't heard the pterosaur's question, and said to herself, well, it's hard enough to fly, you can control the whip. Why didn't you bite me? That sharp beak? I think you're more like an octopus than a pterosaur right now. Send the core. The pterosaur's right arm trembled, and 3 long electric whips were swung by him as a fan. Then the lightning flashed. Core? Chu Yao easily dodged another attack, holding the hard drive in his hand like a juggler and playing with it like throwing a ball. Seeing her indifferent behavior, Pterosaur was angry again. Do you know how important this is? I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 148, Stealing and Changing the Topic. I really want to know why this core is worth 500 million. Quote, the two sides paused for a moment. Pterosaur seemed to have calmed down after hearing Chu Yao's question, but his body was still tense and cautious. Since you don't know anything, why did you intervene? Is it just for money? The electric whip in his hand fell to the ground, and it really looked like a giant squid. If you were just for the bounty, then I still have the right to decide. Tweety, I suggest you give me that core. Some forces are not. What can you afford? So the employer is a large force that is not easily messed with. Let me guess, is Steel Dome Yuanying or the upper level of the Bloody Lions? It would be good if we could get some information from the pterosaurs. If it was not necessary, Chu Yao did not want to use the time tube spirit search. It would be a burden for her. Unfortunately, the pterosaurs did not seem to want to cooperate and did not respond to Chu Yao's words anymore. His body changed again. Several electric whips slithered around his body like snakes. All the mechanisms seemed to be stimulated, and an astonishing pressure was secretly condensing. Don't want to say, then I can only fight. Chu Yao's eyes turned cold, and with a thought, the Ziguang sword flew out of the sea of consciousness and stood beside him. In this case, she had to be serious. The poisonous snake struggled in the ventilation duct to avoid being chased by the guard robots behind. The earphones he used to communicate were lost in the chaos just now, so there was no way to talk to the pterosaur for now. But this was not a problem. According to the plan, outside the building, Xixin had already sent support personnel. As long as he could get out, the job was more than half done. He did not care about the pterosaur's safety. To be honest, there was no friendship between them, the Blood Warriors. At most, they were just colleagues who had temporarily gathered because of a mission. The poisonous snake had made up his mind. As long as he handed over the core in his hand to his employer, and after getting a share of the money, he would go and fly away. Far away from Ling Yuanqing's completely unnecessary places, he put his hand on his chest. Feeling the weight of the core, he sighed in relief. At least this thing was still in his hands. He had been ambushing for half a year, and he knew better than anyone the importance of this core. All the major forces were eyeing it, and it might become the fuse of war. Viper didn't want to get involved in the competition of these big companies. He did it for money. As long as he could safely deliver this hot potato to his employer, he would be flooded. But why is this pipeline so complicated? Exclamation mark. The poisonous snake continued to travel along the intricate pipeline, and finally felt a breath after passing the corner. With a happy face, he broke through the ventilation vent in front of him and rushed out. Bathing under the stars all over the sky, feeling the fresh air blowing from the park in the distance, the poisonous snake seemed to have been pardoned and reborn. He didn't stop, but maintained his previous high speed and completely moved out of the Xixin building, throwing himself into the embrace of the forest. This method was no problem. No matter who hacked into the curtain of the control system, the Guardian robot would not go out of range of the Xixin building. Goodbye. No. Goodbye, Xixin. He disarmed the mecha on his body, ran to the previously designated location, and put on the snake mask without looking back. The snake quickly found the musket guarding the south. The goal has been achieved, but the plan has changed. Let's go first. Quickly contact the master. The blood butterfly and the ghost curtain are ghosts. The blood thrower was active in the execution and got into the car. Immediately, together, amidst the roar of the engine, the car sped along the road, flying far away. The situation was also reported to Tang Yi, who was in charge of the response in the north, and he took the remaining 2 people into the car and ran away without saying a word. Once the goal was achieved, there was no need to care about the life and death of the pterosaurs trapped inside the building. Although the Bloodline hackers had different ideas, they had the same goal. These C-level and D-level people wanted to have few less people and share 500 million with themselves. So how could they save people? Ghost in me? Musketeer was shocked when he learned the situation, and quickly handed the prepared laptop to Viper, who easily inserted his own authentication disk, and started attacking Master with B-level authority called. The network seemed to be not very good, and the semicircle on the screen was still spinning. The determined poisonous snake took out the true core, hidden in his chest, and showed a relieved and proud smile under the mask. Pterosaur, I can't help you either, so please be blessed. Then, in the next second, his smiling face froze. A black light burst out, and the core in his hand turned into a dagger. At the same time, Chu Yao, who was far away in the main laboratory of the Jixing Company, seemed to sense something. A smile appeared on his face, and then he lightly snapped his fingers. The 2 evacuation vehicles were blown away by the explosion, and the dazzling flames turned into the brightest neon lights in the middle of the night. The sound of an earthquake woke up many sleeping people. The phone call from the law enforcement bureau rang, and some people had to work overtime again. Cindy tonight was destined to be unstable. Quote, damn it, I'm too slow. Did you run away? Curtin, who had been chasing him, stood on a high place in the park, looking around, but saw nothing but tire tracks. Lien, where's the backup car? Tell me the route they escaped. Quote, no, you don't have to chase. A voice was typing on the keyboard from the other side of the headphones. Why? We've prepared for so long. Why don't we let them seize the core? Quote, their car exploded. Someone planted a bomb in advance. A bomb? Curtin's mind was thinking quickly, and his fingers were still spinning with a cigarette. Before the official operation, he had also confirmed the safety of the vehicle. Who did it in advance? Right now, all he could think of was whether it was made by a pterosaur or a blood butterfly. Don't hesitate to destroy it and don't let others succeed. Which side is really brave? That's the core. No. Thinking about the value of the core, Curtin immediately changed his mind. Since the parts Viper gave him were fakes, could it be that his parts were also fake? Lien thought to him, I'll send a team to confirm the Viper's car. You still have 43 minutes and I won't be able to do it for long. Quote, take it. It really made me run for nothing. Let's go. Curtin returned decisively. There were many security guards gathered at the door, but he didn't care. Their hearts had punched them down with a few punches. The Jixing staff on the first floor of the night shift saw this scene, so he naturally didn't dare to stop him. Be careful, the organization can't do it without you. Lien's tone was still indifferent. Thank you for your concern. It would be better if there was no last sentence. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 149 Xingwei. Chu Yao put down the Shuang sword, and at her feet was the body of a pterosaur. It wasn't Chu Yao who did it, he did it himself. The scene that appeared in the abandoned playground earlier was staged again. To maintain the secret, he bit the poison in his mouth. Before being crushed, he fiercely confronted Chu Yao, but he was still defeated. Chu Yao leaned over to look at the equipment on the pterosaur. Her heart was calm, and she didn't even need to adjust her breathing. Although the mechanism of this pterosaur seemed strange, he was an ordinary person, but at the very least, he had a stronger physical fitness. If he had to put in a lot of effort, Chu Yao didn't need to be a monk anymore. If there were 10 or 8 people like this, Chu Yao might still have a headache. With a wave of his hand, he cleaned the pterosaurs in front of him, and put all the useful things into the storage bag. Then, it was the old stuff, driving the flame to send him riding for the last time. Looking at the messy laboratory, Chu Yao turned to the deep door. After torturing for a bit, she finally managed to walk forward. 500 million came in second. What she wanted to know most now was what exactly was the core in her hand, and what trick the Jixing Company was up to. I don't know what the pterosaurs and poisonous snakes were doing, but the password door in front of them seemed to be stuck and half opened. Reducing the need to use the wall-piercing technique, Chu Yao turned to the side and walked in. Walking through the long and lonely corridor, her eyes opened. In the circular hall with a hemisphere roof, Chu Yao fell into a trance, thinking that she had walked into a dome theater. However, this space was very small, and it seemed that the small theater could not catch up. More than half of this hemisphere was embedded with electronic screens that fit the shape of a wall, and the endless galaxies and spaces appeared on the screen. Chu Yao and it was like standing in the cockpit of a spaceship with a sea of stars everywhere. Under the star map, countless strange instruments were arranged in a tight circle, and wires were strung together on the floor, and finally converged on a large operating table in the center. Compared to the cleanliness of the exhibition hall, it was unexpectedly messy. I still remember a few Chu Yao. In the right corner of the circular hall, there were 4 or 5 blue surgical chairs with seat belts lined up, and Helmets of various sizes were hung on hooks on each chair. On the colorful helmets, there was a musical instrument that looked like a refrigerator on one side. Why did I recognize her? Because she was wearing it herself. When she was taken away by the Yali Company's spaceship, their staff used this to force the language of heaven and man into her head. Chu Yao looked closely at the refrigerator. There were several thinner tubes protruding from its right side. On the white mouse. Then, are you going to take these things out? While assessing what she could fit in her storage bag, Chu Yao followed the thickest wire to the center console. Although the console was large, there were only a few buttons. In the center of the counter was a normal-sized computer screen, and the desktop was the Yuanying Company's 10-door operating system that Chu Yao was familiar with. There was a vertical slot on the left side of the screen. Chu Yao pondered for a moment, then pulled out the core, and the barrel was lined. It turned out that it was originally here. Chu Yao removed the core, and the disk reading window popped up on the screen, and another hard disk partition appeared shortly after. Size 42 TB. Why don't you have a mouse? She knocked on the screen uncertainly, and sure enough, there was a response. Chu Yao clicked on the partition of the core of happiness, but what she got was a tightly packed compressed file. These files were all named with extremely complicated codes, and there was nothing special about them, but she noticed the details. All the files were created on the same day, December 1st, 2309, 2309. Is this essence really more than 200 years old? Is the lifespan of a hard drive that long? No, the important thing is not the hard drive, but the files inside. As long as there are files, the hardware will loop. Chu Yao took out the hard drive and started fiddling with the computer, trying to find the secret experimental data. Unfortunately, the confidentiality work of the Yuanying Company was more thorough than that of the field scientist Lian, and she had not made any progress. Just as she was about to lose it, there was a voice behind her. Chu Yao turned around and saw a familiar figure. Curtin, why is he here? She looked at the approaching curtain with an unchanged expression, and behind it, 2 guard robots were flying in midair. No one moved first. After a moment of pause, Chu Yao spoke first. It hit him quite deep. Consciousness flowed out, and she carefully observed the appearance of the curtain, and discovered something she had overlooked before. There was indeed a hole. Under the mask of the curtain there were layers of concealment, and he was also wearing a layer of human skin. Under the cover of the second mask, his original appearance began to blur. Spiritual consciousness was not omnipotent. To know his true face, Chu Yao might have to peel off that layer of skin with his own hands. You Shuidi are that person. I didn't expect that I would accidentally have problems with the great god. Curtin's eyes swept across Chu Yao's body, and finally focused on the core in her hand. To be able to solve the pterosaur problem so easily, it seems that Miss Shuidi is not an ordinary D-class assassin. He ran away. Curtin shrugged, obviously not believing Chu Yao's simple lie. To be honest, I don't have much time right now, and I don't want to fight someone comparable to a B-class assassin. Shuidi, how can we make a deal? I just want the core in her hand. 500 million as a reward. I'll give it to you if you want it. Chu Yao sneered. If you solve the 500 million, it's over. As long as you give me the core, you'll have another 500 million in the Blood Customer Alliance's bank account tomorrow. How happy? Question mark. It seems that the value of this core is much higher than this price. Nothing. Curtin was silent for a while, as if he was thinking about something. Forget it. There won't be anyone like man in the future. It's okay to say it. It came from the guarantee of the Xingli organization. Now do you believe it? Ordinary people dare not use our name. He took out a half-palm-sized seal from his clothes and Chu Yao saw it. Drawn 3 silver stars, a pentagram. 3 stars lined up on the symbol in an inverted triangle position. Xingli? I've never heard of it before. What? Are you serious? Now it was Curtin's turn to be surprised. Is this blood butterfly a savage who came out from the deep mountains and old forests? Even if you are an ordinary person, at least you have heard the name Xingli in the news, right? Chu Yao wanted to take out her mobile phone and search the internet to see what kind of organization Xingli is, but she obviously did not have time to play with her mobile phone right now. I have never heard of the Xingli organization you mentioned. Chu Yao sat down on the operating table with her legs crossed in a relaxed manner. Then this, besides the 500 million, tell me again, what exactly is the core? What is the secret of this laboratory? Since you guys came here for the core, you must know a lot of information, right? I became popular in StarCraft Chapter140 time to stop. That's it? Curtin looked very surprised. Since you don't know anything, why did you have to go into this muddy water? Of course, I have my reasons. Chu Yao was lying on the console's ramp with. She put her hand on her pillow on the table. He seemed to ignore the curtain. What if I tell you but you don't give it to me? 2 guard robots flew behind the curtain. After a while, 4 robots floated in midair, aiming guns at Chu Yao. You don't seem afraid of guns. Where did her confidence come from? Curtin carefully looked at the equipment on the opponent's body, but found nothing unusual. You can do whatever you want, but it's in my hands. Chu Yao let go, and the core fell firmly onto the console, making loud noise. The core is valuable to you, but it's just a job. To me, it's just a target. I just want the truth. Chu Yao continued to design her blood butterfly character. Seeing Shui Dai's expression, Curtin rubbed his chin and began to think. Then he laughed out loud. He thought of the possibilities, and he should be right. What are you laughing at? Chu Yao was not in a hurry. The initiative was in her hands. Then shall we begin? The curtain was timed, and he still had a lot of time. Do you know the ultimate artificial intelligence? In the empty ball-screen laboratory, the sound of the curtain was faintly whispering, and the humming blades of the protective robot could not reduce the echo of words. Artificial intelligence knows one or two things. Looking at the cigarette spinning between the curtain's fingers, Chu Yao felt a familiar feeling. What does ultimate mean? Since the birth of computers and robots, heaven and man have never stopped pursuing artificial intelligence. Curtin found a chair in the laboratory, hesitated for a moment, and did not sit down. Ultimate artificial intelligence. This idea was proposed by the great scientist, Dr. Gomez, a pioneer who led human technology hundreds of years ago. This kind of ultimate artificial intelligence is not a simple simulation of the human brain, but a breakthrough of the limits of intelligent thinking, Curtin said while looking at Chu Yao inadvertently. In his vision, once it is successfully born, will in almost every aspect show intelligence that surpasses the human brain. It will develop on its own, speed up the pace of technological advancement to an unimaginable level, and may even become a technological singularity, causing the fifth technological revolution of heaven and man. Are you crazy? After all, we don't even understand how our brains work. Quote, hearing this familiar way of speaking, Chu Yao could almost confirm who this Curtin's true identity is. I didn't expect him to have such an identity. What did the Xingyi organization originate from? This is his true identity. Identity, background. Think about it, such an artificial intelligence also has the ability to rule the entire galaxy. If it is applied to the development of spacecraft, the celestial being's space exploration ability will be improved by an order of magnitude. Gold is at the end of the sea of stars. Even children know this saying, and no one will give up on navigating at the speed of light. Chu Yao had learned before that the speed of the Tianren's fastest spacecraft can be close to a third of the speed of light. It can also be used for weapons in war. An army of robots that require human command. Curtin reached out to touch the robots flying above his head. Dr. Gomez thought ahead, but no matter how far ahead the idea was, there will always be people willing to practice, such as the Jixing group. This is closely related to the advances in brain science in the past few hundred years, and the use of brain-computer interface technology. The Jixing group has had its ups and downs. I forgot which generation of researchers came up with the more astonishing idea. Since simulating the human brain by a computer is almost impossible, why can't we separate the brain from the human body and find a way to turn it into a computer? Single quote. It sounds cruel. Chu Yao commented. It's really cruel. When this idea was brought up, it caused an uproar in public opinion. After all, things like human experimentation were unacceptable by default. This incident also became the beginning of the 14 Promises. Curtin paused, and only the words 14 Promises were explained. On October 14, 2304, the 14 major interstellar companies issued a joint statement under the supervision of the Grand Council to stop the further development of artificial intelligence. You are a good student of history. Chu Yao joked, but as far as I know, artificial intelligence is still in the process of being studied. After more than 200 years, technology must be developed as long as it does not violate the principles of humanity. The Curtin finally stopped spitting smoke, lit it in his mouth, and spit out a blue mist of smoke. The smoke looked like an asteroid belt surrounding the background of the star mouth. 14th contract called for stopping the research of artificial intelligence on the surface, but it could not stop the Jixing company from secretly advancing. They reached a cooperation agreement with the Allied company, and with the fully developed brain-computer technology, they did what they wanted. But the researchers of the Jixing company miscalculated the complexity of the human brain. Chu Yao knew that he was about to hear the key point. Even a blood transfusion has a rejection reaction, and the human brain is the same. Not everyone's brain is suitable for transformation and programming, kidnapping, cheating, capturing, confinement. Just collect a sufficient number of sample. A mocking voice came from the Curtin's throat. Isn't it nonsense? In order to create an artificial intelligence that is future-oriented, they will not hesitate to deprive others of their future. If you want to research a brain that can give birth to advanced artificial intelligence, the conditions and requirements are very severe. There may be only 1 in a million, but this 1 in a million probability really shocked the Jixing company. Quote, this example is Lin Zinan. Chu Yao clenched his fists unconsciously. No one knows why the best example is a child who has not fully developed. From what I know, she has a rare, incurable, and potentially fatal brain disease to adulthood. But it just happened, and the Jixing company will not let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity go. The core in your hand is a transformed core, Xiaonan. It's still far from reaching the ultimate level. The peak of AI can only be regarded as a basic form, but after all, this is an important step that the Jixing company has taken. As long as it takes another step forward, the ultimate AI may no longer be a dream. So, give it to me now. Don't worry, I won't refuse 500 million. Chu Yao was silent. She held the core carefully in her hand and looked at her quietly. Is she still alive now, or dead? Her time stopped on December 1st, 1766. In the frozen moment, she searched for her mother 200 years ago.